Petula Clark's composure held, but the tension in the studio was thick enough to cut with a knife. Denise leaned back, her arms crossed, clearly enjoying the discomfort she was creating. "I'm just being honest," she said, her tone sharp. "People are curious. Audiences want fresh talent. Why keep performing at your age?" Petula's jaw tightened slightly. She looked around the room, eyes landing on each host in turn. "Honesty without kindness is just cruelty," she said quietly, but firmly. "I came here to share my music, to celebrate a lifetime of work. I did not come to be treated as irrelevant. My age does not diminish my passion or my talent." The other panelists shifted, uncomfortably. Kay Adams tried to defuse the tension. "Petula, your new album is bringing classic jazz standards to a new generation. Could you tell us about your inspiration for these songs?" Petula's expression softened, grateful for the lifeline. She began to speak, her voice warm and steady, describing her admiration for Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday, explaining how she hoped to honor their legacy while adding her own unique touch. But Denise was relentless. She interrupted mid-sentence, her smirk unwavering. "Really, Petula, do people today care about this music? There are younger, more relevant artists who are taking jazz forward. Isn't it time to step aside?" A ripple of discomfort ran through the studio. Nadia Sala finally spoke, her voice cutting through the tension. "Denise, that is incredibly rude. Petula Clark is a legend. She has inspired generations of musicians, sold millions of records, and continues to share beautiful music with the world. You have no right to dismiss her like this." Jane Moore chimed in, equally sharp. "Exactly. Critiquing art is one thing, but insulting a guest who has given decades of their life to their craft is unacceptable. Petula deserves respect, not condescension." Denise waved them off, seemingly unconcerned. "I'm just asking questions people are curious about. If she can't handle a little honesty, that's on her." Petula's hands clenched in her lap. She had faced difficult interviews before, but this felt different. This was a personal attack, not a professional question. Her voice, calm but firm, filled the room. "I respect my audience and the art I create. I do not need validation from those who fail to understand the impact of music, regardless of age. If my presence here makes anyone uncomfortable, then perhaps it is best for me to leave." As Petula Clark's car pulled away from the studio, the echoes of applause still lingered in her mind. The audience's support had been overwhelming, a reminder that millions recognized her talent and respected her years of dedication. She looked out the window, reflecting on the surreal events of the past hour. What was meant to be a celebration of her career had turned into a test of patience, grace, and dignity, and she had passed with flying colors. Back at the studio, the hosts were left to face the aftermath. Kay Adams, Nadia Sala, and Jane Moore huddled together, exchanging frustrated looks. "We completely underestimated the situation," Nadia muttered, shaking her head. "This wasn't just a tough question. It was disrespectful. We need to do something. An apology, a statement. This can't be ignored." Jane Moore nodded vigorously. "Agreed. Petula deserved better. The viewers see everything. We can't let Denise's attitude overshadow the respect she's earned over decades." Denise Welch, however, remained defiant. She argued that she had simply been honest and that viewers were entitled to hear the hard truth. But it was clear that her colleagues and the production team saw the damage her words had caused. The incident would not be forgotten quickly, and for Denise, public opinion was already shifting. Even those who admired her candor found it difficult to justify the personal attack on a revered artist. Meanwhile, social media had erupted. Clips of the confrontation circulated rapidly. Viewers praised Petula for her composure and courage, highlighting the way she had handled the insult without losing dignity. "Walking away with grace," many tweeted, "showed more strength than any argument could." Others criticized Denise, labeling her behavior unprofessional and cruel. It was clear that Petula's decision to leave had resonated far beyond the studio walls. For Petula, the incident was a lesson reinforced. Decades in the music industry had taught her resilience, but today reminded her of the power of choice. She could continue to engage with negativity, or she could protect her peace and dignity. She chose the latter, and in doing so, reminded the world that self-respect is never negotiable, no matter the provocation. Later that evening, Petula settled at home, reflecting on her career. She smiled softly, thinking of her decades of music, the countless stages she had graced, and the audiences she had touched. One show, one rude question, could not diminish a lifetime of achievement. She knew that true admiration came from those who understood and respected her journey. Petula Clark's departure from the Loose Women's set became more than a television moment. It was a statement. A statement about respect, dignity, and the courage to walk away when treated unjustly. The legend had not been defeated. She had simply asserted her worth. And for millions watching, the image of her walking off with head held high became an enduring reminder. True strength lies not in confrontation, but in knowing your value and protecting it, no matter the pressure, the cameras, or the critics. Backstage, the atmosphere was tense and chaotic. Producers scrambled, whispering urgently among themselves, trying to figure out how to salvage the show. Some ran to check on Petula. Others debated whether to cut Denise from the next segment entirely. The weight of what had just occurred hung heavy over everyone. Petula sat quietly in her dressing room, hands folded in her lap. She was visibly shaken, but her posture remained dignified. A makeup artist gently handed her a tissue, and she dabbed at her eyes, careful not to smudge the careful work of the morning. "I've faced critics, difficult audiences, and countless challenges," she said softly. "But I have never experienced such blatant disrespect on live television. I came here to connect with people through music, not to feel like I should disappear because of my age." One of the producers knocked and stepped inside. "Petula, I cannot apologize enough." Denise was completely out of line. "If you'd like, you can return, and we'll do the interview with just Kay, Nadia, and Jane. Denise can be cut from the segment." Petula shook her head gently. "I appreciate the offer, truly, but the moment has passed. I don't want to go back out there. I just want to go home." Her voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable firmness to it. Her decision was deliberate. Her dignity mattered more than any television appearance. Meanwhile, back on set, the remaining hosts were trying to regroup. "Kay," Adams addressed the camera, her voice tight with controlled emotion. "We want to apologize to Petula Clark and to our viewers for what just happened. She is a true icon, and she deserved better. We recognize the gravity of this situation and are deeply sorry." Nadia and Jane exchanged looks of frustration and embarrassment, their faces reflecting the shame they felt for how events had spiraled. Denise, however, seemed largely unbothered, folding her arms with that same stubborn defiance. "I said what I said," she muttered. "If Petula couldn't handle honesty, that's on her." Backstage, the audience's applause for Petula continued to echo. Even from behind closed doors, the sound carried a message of solidarity. Kay, Nadia, and Jane gathered to discuss how they could respond appropriately to viewers. They knew the episode would trend, not for celebrating a musical legend, but for the confrontation that had unfolded. Petula sat quietly, reflecting. She had spent her life giving her all to music, performing for audiences across generations, inspiring countless artists along the way. Yet today, she had been reminded that not everyone in the industry understood the value of respect. Her eyes softened as she considered her career and her legacy. Music had always been her path. In that quiet moment, she made a decision. She would not let anyone take her joy, her pride, or her dignity. Age, accolades, and experience did not define her worth in the eyes of others. They defined her strength, her artistry, and her resilience.